MPs yesterday approved the non-binding motion, which called on the government to include as an objective in Brexit negotiations the option of establishing an effective customs union between the UK and EU, without a vote. Signatories to the non-binding motion tabled by parliamentary committee chairs include 4 senior Tories: Bob Neill, Sarah Wollaston, Nicky Morgan, and Dominic Grieve. Downing Street has played down its significance, saying it was a routine backbench business debate. Many prominent anti-EU campaigners did not show up to a parliamentary debate on urging the government to press for the negotiation of an effective customs union with the bloc after Brexit. After May ruled out any change in her stance, their absence meant an expected showdown was little more than a painful reminder for May that she is far from winning the argument on Brexit even in her Conservative Party, and could be defeated in Parliament later this year. The House of Commons approved the motion on a customs union verbally without a vote in a procedure that does not require the government to take any action. The customs union is one of the main flashpoints in the debate over Britain's impending exit from the EU, and Brexit campaigners are sensitive to any suggestion that Britain might stay in such an association with the bloc. Parliament Live to Customs Union Debate. MPs debate Theresa May's Brexit plans, and the DUP, which is propping up the Tories in the Commons, has threatened to bring down the PM if she sacrificed the government's position on the customs union. Leader Nigel Dodd said his party would vote against the government if any Brexit red lines were crossed. Labour MP Yvette Cooper opened the Commons debate by saying motion was the first of the debates chosen by the Liaison Committee, adding it is on one of the most important issues that Parliament will have to take a decision on in the next 6 months. She admitted committee was divided over whether the UK should leave customs union supporting Mrs May's Brexit plans or remain in the EU agreement. Read how yesterday's debate unfolded below. Thursday, April 264.50 p.m. MPs pass motion in favor of customs union. 7 p.m. Stella Creasy urges government to eat the frog. She said, "My mother reaches a milestone birthday today. She has taught me many things, including the eat the frog rule, which is that if you have something difficult to do in life, there is no sense prevaricating. So I am here today to ask the ministers to eat the frog when it comes to admitting there is no better alternative for this country than remaining in the customs union." 3:48 p.m. Labour MP says vote was not about customs. UNIONDULWICH MP Helen Hayes accuses the referendum campaign of ignoring the EU customs union. She said it was not articulated as an essential defining feature of Brexit. Customs union was a phrase that relatively few people knew until after the referendum. 3:27 p.m. Owen Smith says hard border would be unconscionable. Mr. Smith has moved on to Northern Ireland and the risk of a return to violence. He said, "We cannot countenance any return to any hard border in Northern Ireland. It would be utterly unconscionable for this place to allow that to happen. This place has to listen." It wasn't discussed prior to the referendum. It wasn't clear we were going to jeopardize peace in Northern Ireland. It's no clear that we run the risk if there is to be any sort of a harder border. That alone should cause us to pause, to say we must stay in the customs market and single market. Parliament Live to Customs Union Debate. Anna Soubry says leaving the customs union will cost people their jobs. 3:24 p.m. Labour MP Owen Smith lashes out at Brexiteer failed Labour leader candidate Owen Smith. He said he agrees with Labour MP and Brexiteer Kate Holy's comments on the dishonesty in the Brexit debate. Mr. Smith said, "It's the only thing I agree with her on. The dishonesty in my view has been the hallmark of the Brexiteers prior to, during and after the debate." He accused Brexiteers of telling the country fibs. Joey Miller is now taking over running the live blog from Nicole Stinson. 2:50 p.m. Labour MP Ruth George urges MPs to be good listeners. Says there is uncertainty over Brexit, citing local business concerns in her constituency of High Peak. She added, "Because leaving the customs union will slow their supply chains up, it will slow down their manufacturing, and it will increase their costs." 2:30 p.m. Plaid Cymru will remain steadfast in its push to keep the UK in the EU customs union. Welsh MP Hywel Williams reaffirmed his party Plaid Cymru's position has and will always be to stay in the customs Union.2.25 p.m. Tory MP declares the government must respect the referendum result. Matt Warman, the Tory MP for Boston and Skegness, admitted that he voted to remain, but then also voted to trigger Brexit with Article 50. He added, "We have to respect the result." 2:10 p.m. Anna Soubry says that tariffs that will be imposed once the UK leaves the custom union will added that tariff would cause delays in trying to get goods into the EU, adding, "Time cost money." 2:0 p.m. Former Tory Cabinet Minister Nicky Morgan says disrupting the peace in Northern Ireland would be UNFORGIVABLECONSERVATIVE. Former Cabinet Minister Nicky Morgan warned that the Tories would not be forgiven for a generation if the party ignores the evidence for peace in Northern Ireland. Ms. Morgan said, "This country has been asked to experiment at other people's pleasure with a free trade policy, where we do not know what the costs will be for constituents and businesses in this country. I say to my party, if we undermine and ignore the evidence for peace in Northern Ireland, and we undermine the business and financial security of the people in this country, we will not be forgiven for a generation." Parliament Live to Customs Union debate. Kate Hoey warned that there are still people trying to sabotage Brexit. 1:30 p.m. Kate Hoey believes, when the House of Commons votes on the customs union, the result will be different. Labour MP added that she thought there were a lot of people in the Commons debate today who were trying to use the issue of the customs union to start the progress again to try and stay in the EU. 1:20 p.m. Labour MP Chika Yamuna says the UK will be poorer if it leaves the single market and the customs union. Yamuna then challenges Mr. Clark to give an example where a government has been successful. Mr. Clark replied that is why the UK need a customs union, not the current EU customs union, where Britain cannot have trade agreements with third countries. Mr. Yamuna said he will know this government has been advised by its own officials that to leave the single market and customs union will make this country poorer. Can, in all his time in this house, he think of a government that has knowingly taken a decision of this gravity which will make the country poorer? Can he think of any example of any government he has seen where they have done that? Mr. Clark joked in reply, not deliberately, accidentally several times. 1:15 p.m. Kenneth Clark says all his colleagues in the government and the House of Lords are in favor of staying in the customs union. Clark added that while the UK may be leaving the customs union, there needed to be a customs union, or a replica of it. He continued that the UK needed to be able to negotiate trade agreements with other countries, which Britain cannot do in the customs union. 1:0 p.m. Yvette Cooper says the motion calls for an effective customs union, detailing her vision for a customs union agreement. The Labour MP said it would be for frictionless trade without tariffs. 12:45 p.m. Business think tank hits back at claims made by Yvette Cooper in the House of Commons. In an email to the Express.co.uk, Callum Crozier, policy director at leading northern business think tank Policy North, said, "If the UK remains in the customs union, we will be unable to negotiate independent trade deals with other countries. People will then rightly ask in what way we have left the EU. This debate is simply an attempt to frustrate Brexit and undermine the referendum result. If we do not leave the customs union, there is no point in leaving the EU. Being out of the EU but having to abide by its tariffs and being unable to strike new trade deals with the rest of the world defies logic." The North of England economy is worth over 300 billion and makes up 19% of total UK output, but it has the potential to be so much more after Brexit, as long as we leave the customs union. With 90% of global growth over the next 10 to 15 years set to be from non-EU countries, it makes no sense to lock ourselves out of these lucrative markets. Policy North has proposed establishing free ports in the north post-Brexit. There are currently no functional free trade zones in the UK because membership of the single market and customs union effectively prevents us from creating them. That's why leaving the customs union is essential. Parliament Live to Customs Union debate. Kenneth Clark says people are in favour of staying in the EU customs union. 12:40 p.m. Irish border solutions have been questioned by Yvette Cooper. 12:30 p.m. Yvette Cooper says a customs union is the interest of the manufacturing industry, and Northern Ireland Labour MP suggested the UK should stay in the customs union because it would benefit the manufacturing industry and solve the problems over the Irish border, adding in the continued interest of peace. 12:26 p.m. Labour MP Yvette Cooper has opened the debate. Yvette Cooper says today's motion is the first of the debates chosen by the Liaison Committee. adding it is on one of the most important issues that Parliament will have to take a decision on in the next 6 months. The motion has been put forward by 12 committee chairs. 12:10 p.m. The House of Commons is running behind schedule, but the customs union debate is expected to start soon. Speaking before the debate, Nigel Dodds, the deputy leader of the Democratic Unionist Party, said his party would vote against the government if any of its red lines on Brexit were crossed. Mr. Dodds told the Conservative Home website, if, as a result of the Brexit negotiations for instance, there was to be any suggestion that Northern Ireland would be treated differently in a way, for instance, that we were part of a customs union and a single market, and the rest of the UK wasn't, for us that would be a red line, which we would vote against the government. Getty customs union debate. A vote is not expected at the end of today's non-binding debate. You might as well have a Corbyn government pursuing openly its anti-unionist policies as have a Conservative government doing it by a different means. Meanwhile, Labour's shadow Brexit Secretary Sir Keir Starmer accused the Prime Minister of delaying the showdown over the taxation, cross-border trade bill, because she fears a humiliating defeat. House of Commons Library analysis commissioned by Labour indicated the decision to rule out a new customs union with the European Union could cost the UK economy £24 billion by 2033. Sir Keir said, over the past few weeks it has become abundantly clear that Theresa May is unwilling and unable to put the country's interests first during the Brexit negotiations. She has wasted 12 weeks of the Brexit negotiations delaying a Commons vote on the UK negotiating a customs union with the EU, for fear of a defeat in light of the government's own impact assessments, and the lack of progress on any new trade deals. Any economic case for ruling out a customs union has collapsed. The Prime Minister is now solely focused on internal party management and masking the divisions within her government. But Brexit Minister Suella Braverman said Labour's support for a customs union would leave the UK shackled to Brussels, taking rules set by the EU, and unable to strike trade deals. Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn has backed a customs union, but only if the UK had a say in future EU trade deals. Mrs. Braverman said, the supposed safeguards that Corbyn talks about are impossible to achieve and will get laughed out of town. She said Labour was more interested in frustrating the process and playing politics than they are in delivering a successful Brexit. Labour Home Affairs Committee Chairwoman Yvette Cooper and Treasury Select Committee Chairwoman Ms. Morgan said in a joint statement, we both believe the case for a customs union is overwhelming for the sake of British manufacturing, international trade, smooth borders, and Northern Ireland peace. Additional reporting and initial live blog by Nicole Stinson.